Enemy of the state.
An enemy of the state.
Enemy of the state.
You're listening to Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash. Check out thedankpodstash.com to find every episode of the Dank Podstash, links to support the show via our BitBacker and Patreon, Dank Podstash merchandise, and much more. If you'd like to advertise on the Dank Podstash, email us at dankpodstash@gmail.com. What the fuck is up, fellow enemies of the state? This is NonVotingNick, and you found yourself on episode 49. That's right, 49 of Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash. My guest today is my friend, Andrew Marich. Andrew's an awesome dude. We talk about a whole lot of shit, including finding out what the fuck hidden commies are. Yeah, stay tuned for that. Before we jump into the episode, though, let me tell you about a special offer from friend of the show, author and content creator Shane Radliff of Liberty Under Attack Publications. You can take 10% off your order by using coupon code DANK10, that's DANK10, at libertyunderattack.com. And what can you get there? You can get books focusing on self-liberation, freedom strategies, solutions, more. His current books are Agora, Second Realm book on strategy, Ben Stone's Sedition, Subversion, and Sabotage, and Shane's very own Vanu, a strategy for self-liberation, which is the Dank Podstash newsletter's book of the month for like 2 months because I've been slow as fuck at reading it and busy, but we're getting there. You can find the book list, the book reviews, whatever the fuck you call it, on our Patreon page. You can be a patron, support the show. But back to Shane. He also offers assistance to new authors throughout the publishing process, including editing, proofreading, formatting for Kindle and paperback, and full-service audiobook production. That's Liberty Under Attack Publications. Share your story, find your freedom. I also want to shout out Bad Moon Hemp. You got to go to badmoonhemp.wordpress.com and check out everything they've got for sale there. It's your one-stop shop for all your handmade hemp needs. I use their beard oil and beard balm. I fucking love it. I get the Agorist scent. We got some sandalwood up in there. It's fucking sweet. Let's jump into episode 49, and remember, total freedom, no exceptions.
So, have you heard of XYO coin?
I have not. Or is that the thing you posted about yesterday?
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. It's so cool. We can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm just recording right now anyways, so we're just going to talk and record.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, well, basically it's a new crypto that is geo-mined. So basically it's tied to your location, and you mine it by exploring the map. So you literally have a GPS map, and you're basically mining each block physically, almost physically. And there's these things called geodrops, and they're basically like bonus points. So if you're driving and you see one, it's kind of like Pokemon Go, where you want to like go there and then mine that one, and you get more coins.
Nice.
It's really cool.
So I was going to say, it sounds like
Pokemon
Go.
Right. But it's tied to these little, I forget what they're called, geodes or something. They're these little like devices that help you. They give you a mining bonus.
Nice.
And you can, there's a link, I should find it, that you can actually get one for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Is there really a car alarm going off? Can you hear that?
Just a little bit. It's fine.
What the fuck? Of course. So basically you could get one of these little devices and say you have a cat, a stray cat, or a cat that comes and goes or whatever. You could attach it to his collar and he'll do the mining for you.
That's legit.
So it's pretty cool. And the one thing, it's tied to the ERC-20 tokens. So once you get, say, 10,000 XYO coins, you can actually withdraw it to a regular crypto wallet, and
Oh,
then it's
wow.
on the exchange.
Nice.
So unlike Sweatcoin, do you know what Sweatcoin is?
Mm.
Okay, it's sort of a crypto. Um, Basically, you make Sweatcoin by walking,
Okay.
and it checks this with your GPS signature. If you're traveling too fast, it knows you're not walking, and it won't count the steps. But if you're outside and you're walking, it's counting your steps, and every so many steps you get Sweatcoin. And then at maybe, I think it's again like 10,000 Sweatcoin or 20,000 Sweatcoin, you can cash it in for $1,000 cash,
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
which is pretty cool, but it takes a long time.
Oh, yeah. Well, so it sounds like these the point of these isn't to trade them as currency, but to trade them into currency then.
Right.
Nice.
Yep. Well, with the Sweatcoin thing, it's more you can actually spend the Sweatcoin on basically ads, or it's basically advertising for different companies and stuff. Say you have so many coins, you can cash it in for a discount on said product.
Nice.
So there's incentive there for businesses to invest in it, and then that creates value, and then people mine the value, and then that,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
That's it. That's cool. I'm gonna have to look
I
into
like stuff
these.
like that.
Well, I think I'm gonna be doing a premium content kind of deal with the Pod Stash here in conjunction with the Counter Economist Journal on like kind of making the switch to crypto, and I want to cover every angle because the idea is that I was going for originally was living off of crypto completely, but I don't know if that's actually possible right now because everybody just exchanges to dollars anyways.
Not really.
Yeah.
That's what I've been looking at with like even my own shop pages and stuff. It's like, I'd love to accept crypto, but at the same time, it's so many extra steps.
Right.
And I know some people do it with their own products that they produce. I forget, was it some anarcho coffee something or whatever?
Yeah.
But I forget.
Jay Catano.
I think it's Jay. Yeah. But basically with that is, he gets the crypto, he makes the shipment, he ships it out. With us using Threadless or other shops and stuff, we have to take the crypto, convert it to cash, order the thing, wait for it to get to us, and then ship it out.
Right.
And it's just, there's so many steps involved that it's a pain in the ass.
For sure.
So if there was a way, I was told you could link it to Coinbase, and where you take the transaction in Coinbase and it automatically converts it and puts it in your wallet.
Right.
As cash. And then you can make the order, and then so that saves you a step, and then it allows you to order stuff. But then it gets convoluted because then how do they order that specific object? You'd have to build a separate shop page and then offer the crypto and then take the order, and it gets cumbersome.
Right.
We're not at the stage where crypto is perfect. It's not great for e-commerce in the sense of what people are used to.
Well, yeah, and there's a disconnect between, I don't know, everyday living, like paying your rent, buying food, all that kind of stuff with crypto, because people who offer those services don't always take crypto. The majority of them don't. I know my landlord wouldn't take fucking crypto. He doesn't even know what the fuck crypto is. So
one of the property managers I do a lot of work for in Manchester, you can pay your rent in crypto.
Oh, sick.
That's got to
be what's going to make the change.
Yeah, I think they manage maybe 500-600 apartments now. And we pretty much do all of their flooring.
Damn.
So it's been non-stop work. Like, this is the slow season for flooring. Like, the summer is when everything starts to die down a little bit. Like, I go to the shop to pick up supplies and stuff, and other installers are like, yeah, we're taking it easy, we're just waiting for the busy season to start. And I'm like, I haven't had a break in fucking 4 weeks. Like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?
Every day you're posting all these awesome like remodels you're doing. They look really good.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of shit you run into. One of the apartments, it was Section 8 housing,
Hmm.
but they had 2 cats, 2 dogs, a potbelly pig, a couple of lizards, and like 5 children. There was fucking shit and piss
Ah,
and fuck
no.
everything everywhere. But what we sell for a product is we focus on modular products, as in stuff that's easily replaceable. So that includes carpet squares, residential carpet tile that looks like regular broadloom,
Yeah.
but you know if a section gets damaged or there's a turd on it, or they're cooking meth and they cut out the middle or whatever, you just pop in a new tile, clean the rest of it, and it's good to go.
Right.
It's like it follows the 80-20 rule, basically. 80% of the wear and tear happens on 20% of the carpet.
Sure.
You're just replacing that 20%. So for investors or for property owners and managers, they look at that and go, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I save money?
Yeah,
And
for
that
sure.
and that cost savings keeps rent lower, keeps maintenance lower, saves you time, and gets your turnovers done quicker, which is money to people.
Well, now I want to see
So
who's going to be
that's
screeching in any comments about helping out these landlords because, rent is theft and all.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, in some situations, I can understand where, you in the current economy, you either rent or you rent.
Hmm.
There's there's no escape. Either that or you're homeless. And even if you're homeless, you're probably going to get arrested, or the police are going
Right.
to harass you, or you know watching Jeremy go around and stuff. He does fairly well living the van life.
Hmm.
um, but that's not without harassment, that's not without problems. And we're not in a situation where you can really be free of all that. So like, I can understand the argument that rent is theft in the sense that you don't really have a choice.
Hmm.
It's the same way taxation. It's not necessarily taxation isn't necessarily theft. You are agreeing to a certain level of comfort to like, you don't have to pay tax. You can earn less than the taxable amount,
Right.
but your life is shit.
Yeah.
And where do you go? There isn't anywhere to go. So that's a sense of coercion and extortion tied to it. But then you look at property, you can't just go out in the woods and live on a piece of land.
Right.
You can't do that anymore. It's all owned. It's all, for lack of a better explanation, it's all private property. And that's where I can understand, commies being like, yeah, well, it's theft. It's all, it's capitalism. Everything's owned. Everything's privately owned. And technically it is. And you'll have capitalists be like, no, that's corporatism. That's,
Hmm.
crony capitalism and all this. But to a lot of people, that is capitalism. That is private ownership. It's just the state, all the land is privately owned,
Right.
and you're not owning it.
Yeah. So
And yeah.
as far as like, not having a choice because of the way things are with the state currently. So, you can't go out and homestead a piece of land because it's either state owned or somebody else owns it under, protection from the state, because that's how property works in the U.S. right now. I don't think it's like landlords in bed with the state being like, all right, hold everybody off this shit so they have to come rent from us. And I think that's where a lot of people, that's the
Right.
argument a lot of people fall into. I mean, there might be some, but
Yeah, well, I mean, there's also some that take advantage of, low property values, or these kind of slumlords. Slumlords are very real.
mm-hmm.
They put the minimum amount of effort into maintaining the property, and they rent it out at, cheap rates for the cheapest people, or for like Section 8 housing. That's rent control.
Right.
Basically, that's the government saying you have to provide this, and that necessarily drives property value down, which in turn leads to gentrification, because you drive property value down, you have the rich people come in and buy that property, they dump money into it, it raises the value, and then you lose the low income, and now it creates high income, and now those people are displaced. They go somewhere else, or they're homeless now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot more complicated. And I say complicated. There's a big difference between complicated and complex. Complex is just a mass of simple parts together,
Mm-hmm.
working in a complex fashion. Complicated means nobody. It's hard to tell
Right.
what's at fault, or there's so much going on. And that's why, you know, landlordship gets a lot of bad rap.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is bad. A lot of it is pretty slummy. A lot of it is pretty awful. But a lot of it's not.
Well, and it
really depends.
The problem of people arguing over shit that really doesn't matter in the face of we should be uniting against the state is the thing. You know, all these problems that could be nipped in the bud by letting people live freely. You know, I mean, if people have property that they're holding on to one way or another in a stateless society and they want to rent it out, if somebody wants to rent it, they can. Or if there's unoccupied land, they don't have to.
Yeah. Right.
But I like that you're getting into like the definitions of stuff, and you know, you said like some people will say, yeah, that's not capitalism, that's corporatism, because it had me. I saved your post from this morning so we could talk about that, about arguing semantics.
Yeah.
Because people get so fucking pissed off when you're arguing semantics and definitions of words, and then they'll throw the dictionary definition at you, and it's like, well, is that actually accurate? You know, like most anarchists argue from the etymological perspective or definition of anarchy. You know, no rulers, but
right. Which is, I like to get to the root of the idea itself. It's something intangible. It's something you're trying to communicate. We're using words to communicate that idea. They're not perfect. There's a lot lost in translation. Your cultural upbringing versus my cultural upbringing versus our contextual understanding, what books we read, all of this stuff influences what those words mean to us individually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I asked, what do you mean? What do you mean by using this word? What do you mean by this? I had an argument today. What actually inspired that post this morning was a guy. What was he saying? It was basically capitalism. Lefties and commies, just, you know, anything they don't like is capitalism. And it's like, well, that's not really it. They're talking about a very specific gripe, and that's kind of private ownership over the means of production, as in you're not getting the full value of your labor. They're basically taking your labor, marking it up, and living off of that. That's what commies have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
is not retaining the full value of their labor. What they don't like to admit is that it's kind of their fault.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
If you're gonna, you have to seize the means of production, and people think it's like going out with pitchforks and taking the factory from the rich landowner and all this, and it's like, no, it's standing up for yourself and demanding your value.
Well, and educating yourself,
understanding your
becoming
value,
educated. Yeah.
Because
you provide more the more you know.
You have more value. Yeah. And the whole labor theory of value is retarded. I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
well, I was talking.
The harder you work, it does not increase the value. I can work really, really hard on a fucking turd. It's still a turd, and no one wants it.
That's right. Well, somebody might.
Your value is determined by what others are willing to pay for it.
Yeah, it's subjective. That's one thing.
Right.
The I guess ANCAPs get right among other people, but they seem to hold to that pretty strongly. I think I was probably talking to Josh Porsche, maybe Jack Neeson a while ago, about what would be needed for actually seizing the means of production, and it all boils down to education. Because, like you said, going out with pitchforks and things like that, it's not. I mean, you could seize a factory and the things that run in the factory, but if you don't know how to operate them, you're not going to get any value out of your labor anyways. I just don't understand I don't understand the hate towards people who have educated themselves and invested in, I don't know, let's just say machinery, because it always comes back to the fucking factory example when we're talking about this stuff, and have learned how to use it and whatnot, and they find they need more hands to do it. I don't see what the problem is with people saying, hey, I need a job, and it's like, oh, come push this fucking button, pull this lever, and I'll pay you money.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand it either. I think it has to come from a lack of understanding, or of never having operated a business. It's like, if you're a bagging guy at a fucking grocery store, you do not own the store.
Yeah.
You're not your value is replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
Easily replaceable. What you want to do is get to a position where your value is, the value you provide is not easily offered by anyone else.
Right.
Because as soon as it is, you're basically a dime a dozen, and that literally translates to what they're willing to pay you.
Sure. Well, and then
a lot of leftists.
Sorry, go ahead.
A lot of leftists hate Elon Musk. And they don't understand the value he provides. He gets a bunch of subsidies and blah blah blah, and it's like, yes, that's wrong. Subsidies are basically corporate welfare or whatever. But if you were offered that, and you could make a difference in the world, why wouldn't you take advantage of what you can? Why wouldn't
especially
you
from his perspective, because he's not an anarchist. He's not looking at it like blood money, you know.
No, this is an opportunity for me to grow my business and create more jobs. But why? I mean, even people look at billionaires as like these big greedy guys with a big room full of gold, and they're not doing anything with it. But 90% of their value is tied up in assets that produce value for other people.
Sure.
That's their value. We wouldn't have computers or the fucking internet or none of these things would have developed without rich people.
Sure.
Because they're the ones investing in it. They're the ones with the capital. They're the ones, they're not the ones actually producing it, but they're paying for it to be produced.
Right.
You know, you can't, even if you're a filthy commie and want to steal things, you know, you're not going to steal nice things if there aren't any rich people.
Sure. Well, and it comes back to what you were saying, you know, like, what's the motivation of the seize the means crowd? And I think a lot of it is honestly jealousy and greed, because if you're not willing to, you know, make yourself, elevate yourself, but you still want everything, then that's straight up greed. So there's no work put into it. But that's the thing too. I don't think a lot of people look at it like, a lot of people do look at it like, oh, they're sitting here with their fucking money bags and making life shit for everybody else, but ignoring the fact that they're able to lobby, you know, politicians and create new protections for themselves through the current system.
Right.
And that's the fucking problem.
Yep.
Like, it's you know, taking that away, what are they left with? Unless, and I think I was talking with Jeremy Harding about this, and unless they're stockpiling, you know, maybe precious metals, ammunition, like the arms dealers that do sell stuff to the government, and have, you know, private armies, which some corporations do. You take away the government, they're not left with anything except for fiat.
Right. Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of protectionism, but part of that problem comes back with the leftist view of capitalism, is that what actually runs the government are these giant corporations, are these rich people, technically, the capitalist class, basically, those who privately own the means of production. So there's this kind of, it's a mixture. It's kind of two things. It's there, you have a massive wealth that creates this, or at least funds this government to create protectionism, and it's that hierarchical top-down thing that creates all of these problems.
Right. And
I don't think I think some of it's intentional. I don't think all of the repercussions are intentional. I think a lot of it goes back to the idea of it being very complicated. It's a complex machine, but our understanding of it is highly complicated.
Sure.
We don't really know.
Well, so which one?
And I don't know if that's on purpose.
Which arm then of the either government or the people who've accumulated all that wealth by nefarious means, I would say, which one do you cut off? Because are you going to fight a war on two fronts? Are you going to? I think if you just eliminate the capitalist class, you're still left with government. And I think striking a blow to government would be, much more devastating to people who use it for protectionism.
I think neither. I don't think that's the root. Part of the problem is this reliance on the top-down hierarchical structure. If you're going to combat something that big of a Leviathan, something so monstrous and fucking deadly, you need to have something equivalent, or at least something that has the same amount of power but under a different control mode. Basically, it would have to be a lateral network, a mesh network.
Sure.
Basically, you have this much power, but it's distributed. It's basically, in my mind, it goes between it's centralized versus decentralized, which is what we see in a current iteration, at least on the ground level, the difference between fascists and anti-fascists.
Okay.
One is centralized. They have the heads, they have the figureheads and the rallies and all this stuff. And then there's the decentralized approach to combat that. And there is no head. There is no there's no core identity. The identity is the action. It's not an actual group per se. And that's how you combat it. Basically, you need to fight a hierarchical structure. You can't fight it with another hierarchical structure.
Right.
It has to be something different.
That makes sense.
And we're getting there. We're getting there. How do you fight centralized currency? Decentralized currency. You have to take the power away from one person, and it has to be distributed. It doesn't have to be by force either. I mean, there should be some means of self-defense, but I don't think forcing it or wresting it out of the hands of, say, the rich or the powerful it's not going to solve the problem.
No, because there's no backing to the ideas. Then it's just violence with no understanding. And that all sounds like the good sides that we were talking about. Sounds like agorism, which is why I like it so much. Decentralize, do everything counter to it, and it encourages entrepreneurship and educating yourself and attracting people to these better ideas versus cutting something out and saying, here we go, this is what you got to do.
Right. Yep. But that's the hard part, is we are so ingrained with I think it's basically part of our genetics in a way, to have this authority, to have this alpha figure guiding us. And I think we are evolving past that. The advent of the internet is basically is decentralizing information. So that whole problem with dictionary definitions as an authority, that goes throughout everything. The accessibility, the decentralization, the basically you don't have to go to one person for this thing. You have a whole network of people you can bounce this idea off of.
Right.
You're not relying on one authority.
Yeah. I don't know if the idea of a central authority is necessarily something that we've always had. I do think leadership, maybe following somebody who seems like a leader, that's one of the more interesting things. Right. I'm not able to use my words this morning for some reason, but I don't know. There's a lot of Rogan episodes that led me to look at more what is they called? I don't know, just the anthropological history of how we organized and stuff, the psychologists and biologists who study that stuff. And it seems like, yeah, you know, people want the scarred up dude who's fought off the fucking cave bears and knows where to find the good food to show them what to do. And at some point, that definitely switched into them forcing their will upon other people. But it seems like most stuff was pretty decentralized, pretty egalitarian through most of our history, and this is pretty new.
Yeah, I'd say it's new in its scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a global scale at this point. It's actually beyond it's beyond what's actually tangible, and I think that's the core of the problem, because it's not accessible. If President Trump makes a decision at the very top,
Mm-hmm.
we don't necessarily feel the repercussions, not directly anyway. It's so far removed from the bottom. That's how high up it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think that scale needs to basically shrink.
Yeah.
But what that means is everything in between needs to be replaced laterally, basically.
Yeah, decentralization.
Basically, an emphasis back on maybe town hall meetings or working within your community. That's kind of the core of what's happening in Rojava and the Kurds and all that. They've developed this they have separate autonomous communities that work together for a common good. But there's no authority.
Right. That sounds about right.
It's based on your community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it works.
You know, no man's an island, and the hyper-individualism is ridiculous, I think, because you can't just go out and carve out your piece of land and be 100% self-sufficient. You're going to have to rely on other people for something or another, because you can't do everything. Right. Strong communities are what's going to make it happen. But you start bringing that up.
That's how we got here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's how we survived.
Mm-hmm. Well, you start bringing up even the word community to hyper-individualists. It's not a fulfilling conversation. Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, you know,
like there's nothing wrong with collectivism.
Not at a certain scale, no. And depending on what it's built around. I prefer just not even using that word to avoid the conversations where people, I don't know, where people want to about collectivists.
Right. I mean, that's why I avoid capitalism, or at least the word anyway, because it's just there's so much tied to it. There's so many different views. There's so much baggage to the idea. If I want to talk about a free market, I'm going to talk about a free market.
Right. Well, that's
kind of
the people who say that capitalism is just free markets. It's like, fuck, it's not. It's an economic system that could possibly, work in a free market. Like Hody, our buddy of the show, Hody, says, free markets are one of the legs of capitalism that allow it to happen. But then if you go with that, it's not real capitalism without a free market. So what the fuck are we in now? And you go down all those paths. And the other problem, too, is when you start telling people that free markets does not equal capitalism. If you look up the dictionary definition somewhere, I don't know, there's one of the dictionary definitions that describes free markets as an economic system. And therefore, it's an economic system, therefore it's capitalism. Right. But I think it's actually the space in which economic systems can exist to their fullest potential.
Right. It's the greater container.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bigger container. And there's all of these things inside it.
Mm-hmm.
And they can all coexist. Technically, it's not impossible. The only problems you run into is where they compete for land, and land is the one finite resource that we all pretty much fight over.
Yeah,
it just always has been.
Yeah,
and I don't know how we resolve that. I really don't. I don't know if we do. I think really, the next step is to basically, we need more space. Even though we're not occupying most of the planet, it logistically we kind of are.
Right.
You know, it's that idea of, it's not overpopulation, it's overconsumption, and it's a resource logistical problem. You can't get what's needed to where it's needed.
Well, and people want to do things differently. Like that's one of the big,
yep,
the big problems, the big conversations I've been running into is mostly ANCAP saying that if you don't change the land that you're claiming, if you don't cut down the trees, do whatever, then you're not homesteading it and you don't own it. But there's many reasons I would want to have land in its natural state, including attracting wildlife,
right.
Foraging, all kinds of stuff. I don't want to cut down all the fucking trees, and I don't think that makes ownership.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of where I feel like ownership itself is kind of unobtainium. It's not a thing. There's the idea of self-ownership, but do we really own ourselves? That's where I kind of have a huge, I guess, philosophical issue with the concept of ownership, because how do you own? What is the action of owning? There isn't one.
Right.
There's use. You're using this land, but what is really ownership? No matter what, it's temporary.
Sure.
You die.
Yeah.
You know, spoiler alert, you die.
Fucking A.
I hate to break it to people, but
yeah. Well, self-ownership,
no one gets out alive.
Self-ownership implies that you could, I guess, give yourself away, sell yourself or whatever. And that's a whole another rabbit hole that people get into this. You can't sell yourself into slavery, or you could sell yourself into slavery.
You could.
Yeah.
I think we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trade-off for comfort.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I mean, that's why I pay taxes. I don't pay taxes to be a good American citizen. I pay them because I don't really want to be in jail, and I like operating a business, and I like living with these creature comforts. It's what I'm used to. I'm not willing to sacrifice that yet.
Right.
It's a value judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then
and I think as long as you own that,
sure,
it is what it is.
Absolutely. That's the one of the things that I struggle with the most too. It's because I don't want to go to fucking jail. I want to have internet and stuff so I can do this fucking show and do all the other things I like doing. But at what point do you stop doing that, or does anybody stop doing that, or is that even a thing you have to do to advance along the idea of freedom?
Right. I don't think so. I don't think we have to. I think it'll just transform. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Slow. Well, I shouldn't say it's slow. It's actually really, really fucking fast. If you look at a small part of our timeline humanity is, we are accelerating rapidly. It's gonna, in the next 20 years, it's gonna be unrecognizable. 20 years ago, we couldn't imagine where we are now.
No.
Couldn't.
No. Well, and I think that could be a problem for our minds, for our emotions, a lot of people's minds and emotions. I don't know if anybody, no matter how well they seem to be adapting to our rate of change, I don't know how well anybody actually is. It seems like we're not handling the social media fucking traps and dopamine traps and whatnot very well. There's a lot of people losing, for lack of a better term, I guess, their minds. Like, disconnecting makes it very apparent, when you go out in the woods, how meaningless a lot of our electronic existence is, and then you come back and see people's whole lives ruined over it, and their whole existence is based on it.
It's crazy. And part of that is our adaptability, and our adaptability is in direct conflict with our need for habit, our habitual nature, and I think those things are always bumping heads. And the key to that is at least acknowledging it, at least being aware of it, and being okay with change,
Hmm.
welcoming it. It's better to create a system that is adaptable than something that is rigid.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's rigid, it's gonna break. It's it's going to. It's
Sure.
going to. I don't know. I don't know what that's gonna look like. I don't know what's gonna break it, but I know it's gonna break. So if you can plan for that, if you can expect that, it's not that harsh of a realization.
Yeah. Being flexible, rolling with the punches. I
Yep.
that makes me think of too an argument that I have quite often is human nature. People at when they're backed
Oh
into
God.
a corner, they're like, well, it'll never happen because it's human nature. It's like, what the fuck is human? What do you think human nature is? Because
Right.
I don't fucking think it's people are bad or people are good. I don't think humans have a nature. I think humans have instincts and patterns that they followed for a long time, but I think we're programmable
Right.
for the most part. I think the
High,
adaptability is the thing.
highly, highly programmable. The hard part is being conscious of it, because there's so many habits we form daily
Hmm.
that we're not even aware of. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. But once you like neural linguistic programming and like the hypnosis therapy
Mm,
and that stuff, really fucking powerful shit.
really?
Um, a, a lot of it is, a lot of it gets tied to frameworks, as in either religious preferences or um, I don't know, certain motifs and certain how do I put it? Uh, Basically, you'll get into people that they've developed a framework,
Hmm.
whether it's religion or horoscopes or some kind of belief system, and that framework is what they project onto, and they use that framework to program their brain to produce results they want. And it doesn't matter what your belief is, it doesn't matter what those, whether they're entities or forces or whatever, as long as you have those objects or those ideas in your head, you can start to orient them in such a way to give a positive result.
Mm.
So whether you're a Christian, a Jew, Muslim, or you're a pagan or whatever, having those spooks under your control unlocks so much potential.
That makes a lot of
Because
sense.
then when you're exploring your mind, you're exploring your habits and stuff, you have something to project onto, and that framework is super critical. um, which is why, I don't really I used to shit on religion and all that, but it's actually really powerful stuff,
Yeah.
whether it's true or false.
Well, it makes sense because every society that's here is built on a pre-existing framework at some point or another, usually religion. But
Eh,
the thing that people miss is that not everyone was just a slave to that religion, to the fairy tale aspect of it, I guess, for lack of a better term, but
right.
used it to their advantage. And I specifically think I see that more in the pagan religions because it was more of a framework that helped you exist with nature around you and in your survival through the different seasons and things like that. There's more dominating frameworks, obviously. You see that with the Christian expansion into other religious frameworks and even Muslim expansion in certain times. All kinds. I mean, they've expanded into each other. So,
Yep. But that's the kind of thing that uh, I think people need to look at and be open to. Not necessarily religion, but not being afraid to develop your own framework.
mm-hmm.
you know Decentralize the frameworks, and then once you get to that point, you can start analyzing their function in all these different belief systems and actually get to the root ideas that govern our existence,
Sure.
our mentality, our yeah. And I think decentralizing that might be the starting point. I think we're already kind of getting there with social media,
Mm.
just in the sense that the cults of personality or whatever, as disgusting as some of them are, they are evidence that people are willing to develop their own frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
And they work. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know.
What's an example of that? What kind of cult of personality are you talking about here?
Let's take someone I hate. Let's say Jordan Peterson.
Okay. Okay.
You know, wash your ears, clean behind your balls, that kind of thing. You know, that's something. You know, he's not really a place of authority. No one really gives a fuck about him, but his little framework, his little system of understanding has helped a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's undeniable. It's kind of stupid. It gets taken to a ridiculous degree with some people, the kind of fanboyness.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I think there's different types of people in that regard. There's the followers, and there are said leaders. And I don't know. I guess the leaders are developing frameworks, and the followers are using said frameworks.
It seems like in Peterson's case, though, he's not necessarily developing the framework, but he's simplifying pre-existing frameworks so that people can grab onto them. That's what it seems like more.
That makes sense.
I personally don't understand the hate.
Accessibility.
The hate for Peterson that I see out there. Because, like, I don't know. I'm not a Peterson fanboy by any means, but I think if he's helping people through whatever he's doing, I think that's good.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't like his framework. I'll put it that way. I don't like his framework. It's I don't know. It puts a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, it sounds like you don't need it. Maybe you cleaned your room before you heard Jordan Peterson. You're like, what the fuck do I need this for?
Right. Yeah. You know, but I guess some people need that nudge.
Yeah.
You know, some people don't think about that.
Sure.
And that's fine, I guess.
Well, before
he's not hurting anyone.
No, that's good. Despite how much some people think he is hurting people, that dirty Jordan Peterson white supremacist. But before we hit an hour here, I want to ask, because I don't understand it all. I think it's hilarious when it pops up and people get triggered, but I have no fucking idea what hidden commie is, and I want to know about hidden commie.
Oh God. Hidden commie was developed out of it started with Tyagananda. Do you know Tyagananda?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he was getting into a huge debate about, I forget what, I don't even remember now. It was basically about property rights.
Okay.
And we were just questioning the property norms, and people called it, basically by questioning property norms, we were being called commies.
Okay.
And we were like, okay, we're not actually communists, we're just questioning these things. So we're like, oh, what are we, hidden commies, like fucking closet commies, like what the fuck? So we're like, fine, you know, I'll just be a fucking hidden commie, you know, fuck you. Yeah. Why not? Like, and that's pretty much just how that even came to be. It was just questioning norms. Sure. Questioning property norms, questioning capitalist norms, and being called a commie in the process.
There it is, right there.
I'll be a commie then.
And when you're talking with the cappies and you question, you know, their basic fragile framework that, well, most of them, not all of them, but you question the fragile framework they've set up, then yeah, that happens. Like I think someone brought up a picture of James Weeks with a hidden commie shirt or hat in an argument or something. See, you're a fucking commie. Yeah. It's like, okay, I don't think that's. I think you're falling prey to this joke now.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
that's great.
And for the most part, it's opened my eyes. It's opened my view towards communists in general, and being more open to their arguments. and actually trying to understand what the root is. That's how I understand the difference in capitalism and corporatism and where it all comes from. I mean, the word capitalism was coined by a social anarchist, you know, not necessarily Marx. Marx was a little later, but he also pushed the idea of capitalism being the capitalist class. And for a long time, that's what capitalism was. It's only recently that it's been perverted into this idea of a free market, when it really wasn't really talked about that way.
Sure.
You know, it's a fairly new phenomenon.
Well, it seems...
Which is why people have such a problem with ANCAPs.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, how can you be anarchist and a capitalist? They're like diametrically opposed from that understanding. It means something different to these people. You're basically using the same word to talk about two different things.
Right. Well, and if you swap capitalist for free marketeer, then you better be a free marketeer, because I see a lot of that talking... A lot of that talk come from ANCAPs, capitalists, whatever. Say, well, if that's not the correct term, then let's be free marketeers. In which case, I think you're probably more an agorist. So it's completely different,
right? So
the
so
most,
then really, where does ANCAPism?
The most.
Where does ANCAPism exist?
I don't know. I don't fucking know. I think we're railing against. Ourselves or against each other instead of the things we should be. But I don't think like I said at the very beginning of this, I think semantics are important to discuss. I think it's important to agree on definitions, but when you start getting into, you know, capitalism versus socialism, whatever, it's like, who the fuck cares? We can't exercise any of it anyways right now.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Right. It's more important to understand what they're talking about and why, and what to do about it. What you call it doesn't fucking matter. If you have a problem with people starving in the streets, you have a problem with people starving in the streets.
Yeah.
I don't care what you call it. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to steal from people to feed them, or are you going to work your ass off and feed them yourself? Or are you going to band together and provide community services for them? How do you go about it? I don't care what you call it.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how it gets done, as long as it gets done, you know, I don't know if it's too spooky to say ethically, but without hurting other people, and it accomplishes the goal.
Yeah. Right. That should be something we all strive for, I think, anyway.
I agree.
At least it requires a certain level of awareness. Like, you know, you got to be woke. You got to be woke as fuck.
Woke AF, and then follow that by hidden commie AF, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Well, that's about the hour recording time, man. This is a new format that I'm trying, where we just kind of start talking and go, and things are pre-recorded at the front of the episode.
Cool shit.
I like it. I think it's fun. This hour went by really fast, but hopefully you can stick around for a minute for some quick Patreon content. I'm gonna throw in what I usually ask at the beginning, like how you found anarchy and things like that, and then a special question too. So if anybody wants to see that, it's right there on the screen. Or if you're listening, patreon.com/thedankpodstash. Help support the show, and I'll keep making it. Appreciate it. And thanks for coming on, dude. That was fun. We're definitely going to have to do it again. I think we could go for a few hours.
Super fun. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Too, before we go, real quick, anything you want to plug? Any of your stuff? And I'll throw it all in the description.
Yeah, I got my Threadless page, agora.threadless.com, or my Facebook page, which has my viral style stuff, because viral style doesn't have nice links. At Bodhi's Agora, facebook.com/@Bodhi's, however they do the Facebook links.
Yeah, we'll get it in the description. You got good stuff too.
Yeah,
your designs are sick.
Getting there. I'm starting to branch out from anarchies.
Nice.
I don't know. I want bigger ideas.
Sure. I love the subpar hat. I ordered one of those. That's one of my golf hats. Is subpar. Hell yeah. Fucking A.
Sweet.
All right, cool. Enemies of the state. We'll fucking catch you next time.